High above the plains of southern Anatolia, hidden in the rugged peaks of the Taurus Mountains, lies one of the most mysterious cities of the ancient world, Termessos, a city carved into stone, guarded by nature itself, and remembered for something no other ancient city can claim. It was never conquered. The story of Termessos began long before the rise of great empires. Its origins trace back to the Selimians, a people so ancient that even the Greeks considered them almost mythical. According to the early traditions, the Selimians inhabited these mountains thousands of years before classical civilization reached Anatolia. They were not a coastal people, not traders or sailors, but fierce highland warriors, deeply connected to the land, the cliffs, and the harsh winds of the mountains. The earliest known references to Termessos appear in the 4th century BCE, during one of history's most ambitious military campaigns, the conquest of Alexander the Great in 333 BCE. Alexander approached Termessos expecting another swift victory. But what he found instead was something entirely different. The city was not built like others. It did not rely on massive outer walls or open plains. Instead, Termessos was protected by steep cliffs, narrow mountain passes, and a natural fortress that no army could easily penetrate. The road leading to the city was so tight that even a small defending force could hold of thousands. Alexander, known for his relentless strategy and unmatched ambition, assessed the terrain and made a rare decision. He chose not to attack. He called Termessos an eagle's nest, unreachable, untouchable, and he moved on. This moment would define the city forever. While empires rose and fell, while cities were burned, rebuilt, and conquered, Termessos remained isolated, independent, and silent among the mountains. But Termessos was not just a military stronghold. It was a living, breathing city, one that would soon develop its own culture, identity, and way of life, blending ancient traditions with the influences of the civilizations that would follow. The inhabitants of Termessos were unlike the typical citizens of Anatolia. While many cities thrived on trade routes, agriculture, or access to the sea, Termessos existed in isolation, high in the mountains, far from the reach of easy commerce. The people here were resilient. Life was not easy, and survival depended on strength, discipline, and adaptability. The terrain shaped everything, from the architecture to the daily routines. They built their homes directly into the rocky landscape, using local stone. Streets were narrow and irregular, following the natural curves of the mountain rather than imposing strict urban planning. Every structure seemed to grow out of the earth itself, as if the city was part of the mountain. Despite this isolation, Termessos was not primitive. It was, in fact, remarkably advanced for its environment. The city featured a theater, one of the most breathtaking in the ancient world, perched dramatically on a mountainside, overlooking vast valleys below. This was not just a place of entertainment. It was a symbol of culture, identity, and intellectual life. There were also temples, including one dedicated to Zeus, a unique local form of Zeus, reflecting the blend of Greek influence with indigenous beliefs. This tells us that while the people of Termessos maintained their independence, they were not closed off from the wider world. They adopted and adapted elements of Hellenistic culture, creating something entirely their own. Water, one of the greatest challenges in such a location, was carefully managed. The city had sophisticated cistern systems, collecting and storing rainwater to sustain its population. Daily life revolved around survival and community. People hunted in the surrounding forests, raised animals, and cultivated what little land they could. Their diet likely consists of grains, wild herbs, meat from hunting, and preserved foods, suited the harsh conditions. They were not a people of luxury, but they were a people of strength. And perhaps that strength is what allowed Tharmassos to endure where so many others fell. After the encounter with Alexander the Great, Tharmassos entered a new chapter, one defined not by conquest but by careful navigation between powerful empires. During the Hellenistic period following Alexander's death, his empire fluctuated into competing kingdoms. Many cities were absorbed, destroyed, or forced into allegations. But Termessos remained different. It maintained a degree of autonomy, leveraging its natural defenses and strategic positions. Eventually, the influence of Rome began to spread across Anatolia. Unlike many cities that resisted Rome and suffered destruction, Termessos took a different path. It formed an alliance. In 71 BCE, the Roman Senate officially recognized Termessos as an independent ally. This was an extraordinary statute. While Rome dominated much of the known world, Termessos was granted the right to govern itself. This decision was not made lightly. Rome understood what Alexander had realized centuries earlier. Conquering Termessos would be costly, difficult, and perhaps unnecessary. So instead of war, there was respect. This alliance allowed the city to flourish. Public buildings expanded, infrastructure improved, cultural life continued to evolve, blending local traditions with Roman influence. Yet, even under Roman protection, Termessos never lost its identity. It remained a mountain city, proud, isolated, and deeply rooted in its origins. But history is not only shaped by wars and empires, sometimes it is shaped by something far more unpredictable, like nature. For centuries, Termessos stood untouched. Not by armies, not by invaders, not by empires, but it could not escape the force that had once protected it. At some point, likely during the Roman and early Byzantine period, a powerful earthquake struck the region, and this time the mountain that had been its greatest ally became its greatest threat. The earthquake triggered massive rockfalls and landslides. The narrow passages that connected the city to the outside world were blocked, pathways collapsed, access to routes disappeared. But the most devastating impact was on water. The carefully constructed aqueducts and cistern system were damaged or destroyed. Without reliable access to water, life in the city became unsustainable. Termessos had survived Alexander the Great. It had negotiated with Rome, but it could not survive without water. Slowly, the city was abandoned. Families left, temples fell silent. The theater, once filled with voices and stories, stood empty, overlooking the same vast landscape, but with no one left to witness it. Unlike many ancient cities, Termessos was never rebuilt. It was not looted extensively, not reshaped by later civilizations. It was simply left behind. And because of that, it remains today as one of the most untouched and authentic ruins of ancient world. Termessos is not only a place of history, it is a place of myth. The Seleucians, its earliest known inhabitants, appear in ancient Greek literature. Homer himself mentions them in the Iliad, describing them as fierce warriors who fought against the Lycian hero Bellerophon. Some legends suggest that these mountains were once home to creatures, spirits, or forces beyond human. The harsh landscape, the sudden winds, the echoing silence all contributed to a sense that this was not an ordinary place. The worship of Zeus, Seleucus reflected this connection between the people and their environment. This was not the distant Olympian Zeus of classical Greece. This was a mountain god, a protector, a force of nature. Even today, visitors often describe a strange feeling when walking through the ruins, a silence that feels alive. The wind moves through broken columns. The stones hold the memory of footsteps long gone. And the theater, still standing high above the valleys, seemed to wait, as if the story is not yet over. Termessos is not just a city, it's a reminder that some places are not meant to be conquered, that some stories are not meant to be forgotten, and that sometimes the greatest power is not an explanation or dominance, but an enduring untouched through time itself.